Hooker. Ashley Gomez punching the board back there. Nicole Crisina, our reporter, is going to join us pretty soon, and Robbie Baker a little bit later on sports. But first, what's going on right now? A big deal in L.A. We have a police chase. May or may not be connected to some
anti-ICE protests.
Anti-ICE protests. They kind of started yesterday and then blew up today. Take it from there.
Well, one thing about LA is they love a police chase.
They do love that.
My friend is a producer over there at the Fox affiliate, and she'll build a whole entire newscast. They will dump the whole thing and cover that police chase ever since, obviously, O.J. Simpson.
Because people just want to sit there and see how it ends, I guess, right?
And there's a lot of roads in LA, and it's easy to run from cops in a car in LA. Usually they get caught eventually, but it's definitely a lot of drama.
And Trenton, we're not exactly sure if this connects to the ICE raids or not at this point.
We're not. This one, from what LA police have told our Fox station out there, KTTV, that the suspect, I believe, was wanted for reckless driving, which looks like they're doing a lot of. Just a second ago, it was really interesting before we got into show. You saw the driver of that Honda Accord, it looks like, pulled right up to an intersection right next to a black and white police cruiser.
Oh, my God.
So police cruiser kind of looks at them, they look at them, and then the light kind of changed. They went through, and that was it. So
you got somebody on all these chases, the driver does the math, right? How much trouble am I in if I just stay here and take my punishment, or how much trouble will I get in if I run, or maybe I get away, right? They make that calculation.
Yeah, a lot going on. Well, and to LA, like you were kind of mentioning, where it's kind of a happening, the city is really set up for these police chases.
Absolutely.
So back yesterday, I was at work. I know you two were off, but these riots, I don't know if you want to call them riots, police standoffs started. There were reports that ICE agents went to a Home Depot to arrest illegal immigrants, which you would think would be low-hanging fruit, people just out there trying to get some day work. I think the feds are denying that that's kind of how it happened.
Correct.
But if in fact that did happen that way, it led to a police protest, a police standoff, and then you get into this whole area where, well, wait a minute, I thought we were only going to go after immigrants who had been committed of crimes or connected to crimes. Now we're going after day laborers, so we get into that whole rabbit hole.
You're saying this is just a staging area, but obviously across from a Home Depot, everybody's eyebrows go up.
Right.
I think people are really concerned about the presence out there. You see all these agents show up with their cars. It's alarming.
Yeah, and that's a live look right now on the ground. I believe this is Paramount, California, in the LA area. You know, you obviously have LAPD lining up. You have anti-ICE protesters on the other side of that. And last night, I'm sure you guys did see the video that came out of it. Things got pretty heated.
I would definitely call it a riot because they're cussing at the agents, they're throwing things at agents, they're throwing themselves in front of agents' cars, and then agents have responded with pepper pellets, rubber bullets. I mean, this is no longer just a standoff or a protest. This is getting bad. And there's been arrests out there. This is also popping up in Manhattan as well. Same kind of behavior where it's veering on violence towards these agents. And what makes this situation all the more confusing is that the mayor seems to be in support of the people out there because she tweeted, "We will not stand for these raids."
Yeah.
So it's kind of sending mixed messages.
Well, let's take a look at what she said with that. We can pull up graphic 2 again, Ashley. The mayor was saying, they received reports, actions, multiple locations in the LA area, proud city of immigrants, and just like you said, Ashley, we will not stand for this, she said.
Yeah, so is she telling people, hey, go out there and push back against these officers? Now, federal agents have really ramped up the raids recently, and I saw a number. They arrested something around 100,000 people just this week alone.
Yeah.
And so Governor Newsom has come out and he's like, look, you're tearing apart families. You're actually impacting businesses that rely on these guys. Obviously, border czar Tom Homan, who is, I think, in LA right now, would say, no, we're just going after the criminals. But again, your staging area across from a Home Depot.
No, yeah.
That's not where the
And then you get
criminals
into what do you mean by criminal? You mean he or she is here illegally, or they committed a crime while they were here? And we, let's not kid that we didn't know this was coming. This was probably coming in stages. They are going to go after high-profile people first, then they're going to just keep it going, because that's what the people who elected Donald Trump knew and wanted to happen. They wanted some strong immigration enforcement, and it's not just going to stop because a few months have gone by.
And
Right.
that
And I was just going to say, sorry to cut you off, but that's exactly where you see the different shades of gray on this issue. You mentioned Tom Homan. I mean, Homan has been asked repeatedly, are people here illegally? Are those the criminals that you're talking about? He would answer yes, that if they broke law by coming over, they are in fact criminals. And same thing, you have Stephen Miller, you have other members of the Trump administration who say this is what America overwhelmingly voted for and wanted.
Yeah, and I've covered a lot of these protests turn riots, and whenever I'm out there, it's like a line that the folks cross. If they were to just get out there and link arms and be quiet and peaceful about it, they have a right to push back against the federal government. But it's when they cross that line, when you start to inflict violence on the federal agents and you're
Right.
getting rowdy, the message is lost. And I think Homan came out and said, if you bring chaos, we bring handcuffs. And it's like, the threat is being lost. You're totally allowed to disagree with what this administration is doing. But there is video out there that Dan Bongino
Right.
actually retweeted of a guy just standing there throwing rocks straight into the federal
Right.
agents' cars. That could cause death. I mean,
We don't want any violence on either side, clearly.
your message is going to get lost,
And
guys.
I know that Dan Bongino did release a statement. I thought this last line was kind of interesting. The days of chaos ruling the streets are over. Either obey the law or go to jail. There is no third option.
And then I start to wonder, are they going to go city to city? Are they coming to Phoenix next? Are they going to go to the Home Depot in my neighborhood? And is this going to happen there? And what's that going to look like? And then you hear a lot of people on the other side who say, oh, okay, you take away the immigrants, who's washing dishes? Who's doing the landscaping?
Who's building
Doing the
houses?
jobs that other people don't want to do? They come here and do want those jobs. Is that going to undermine the economy, undercut the base of the
Yeah.
economy if they're forced out by the hundreds of thousands?
One thing I want to say real quick, I'd be remiss to say this, is we want to welcome everybody that's joining us on YouTube too, especially on our chat. Thanks, guys, for weighing in. It looks like we got a couple people on there putting some chat comments in. And again, Fox 10 Talks on the weekend edition. We do want to make this a conversation. So if you do have questions for us, if you do have feedback, if you do have thoughts on this, share it with us. We'll definitely get that going.
Should we pivot to Nicole Christine?
She is
Talking
standing
some
by.
local news. She's standing by. And we're talking about, this is a sad, horrible situation. Oh, I think we're still trying to get her Zoom link
Yeah,
up.
I think she's still joining with us.
But we debated her story today. Like, we first sent her out, the egg story that will never die. That was originally going to be the story. We have more avian flu. I think a fourth farm in the area found with bird flu. And, I guess
One hopped over, I believe there was a salmonella alert.
a
for folks
salmonella
out
alert.
there with another company.
And then there's egg prices, and then there's egg shortages, and it
And
just keeps
this
on going.
bird flu is at this Hickman farm, right? It's mostly
That's
his.
one of them. Yeah.
So, and I think I read it's going to take 2 years to get the population back up, because once bird flu is detected, they got to kill them all.
6 million,
Million.
birds.
And
That's
then we
so
were talking
sad.
about, how do you dispose of 6 million birds? And there's video out there of some big trenches being dug out in the West Valley.
Putting it in the back of semi trucks. I know a few of the groups that I follow out in the West Valley, they were even complaining that if you drive by on some of the highways near Tonopah, some of these folks were weighing in and saying they found dead chickens on the road on the way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear out there, because it wasn't just obviously the egg farms that were affected. If we remember earlier in the year, we had one of our zoos in the area, Wildlife Safari Zoo, that was affected by avian flu, where we had big cats, different mammals that were affected too. It can hop over species.
And let's not forget COVID-19. It wasn't that long ago, and it, in theory, went from animals or a lab, whatever you believe, but it went to humans, and they keep saying it hasn't happened yet or isn't going to happen. But if you get a hold of a bad chicken or
I
egg,
personally,
thank you guys in the chat too. We're in this together. Appreciate it.
I personally am not like the biggest egg eater. I'll be okay. And if they go up too high, I know friends in New York were talking about $15 a carton. You know, I just won't buy them. But
Yeah.
who it affects is the businesses
Sure.
who a lot of these food businesses rely on eggs and buy them
sure.
in mass. And yeah, that could really add to the bill.
If you drop people in for brunch, I think eggs is probably top of the menu. And then what are you going to do if people don't show up?
And then going back to the comment, Off-Roading AZ says, what do you guys think the outcome of this is all going to be in LA? Today, it's going to be a mess. I would not be surprised that as the sun goes down, it gets rowdier and rowdier. That's the other thing we're noticing about protests turned riots turned chaos is there is a portion of the population that thrives on the chaos and goes out there, not necessarily because they believe in the cause, but because they are rabble rousers who want to start trouble. So we'll see how it goes.
A lot of tension ramping up, and I mean, you can see right now it definitely looks like a stand-up. And I think we know this from previous years, especially when the sun starts to set, when visibility gets less. That's when things just really ramp up. And I know last night a lot of federal agents were out. People were shining lasers in their eyes and strobe lights too. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but how is it just being on the ground there when you're covering an incident like this?
Well, they're not really media friendly. The folks out there that are the most angry. Now, you have your activists who genuinely care about issues, whether it's BLM or, October 7th, and they want to get in front of the camera and give you sound bites and get the word out there. And then you have the people who go out there in face masks. You can see some of the guys out there, they already have their bandanas handy to cover their face, and they want to start trouble. They do not like the media. So it can be, you got to watch your back. You definitely have to have your head on
loving
swivel.
the media there, or who doesn't worry about the media. I was in the middle of a protest. It wasn't immigration related, but it was downtown Phoenix. And the guys who are there to keep peace, if you get in their way, you're in their way. You're in a law enforcement officer's way. And these guys at the front of the line were trying to hold back some protesters, and our media was all up in the middle of them, and they were just pushing us around like we were, as they should have. I mean, we put ourselves in harm's way, but they didn't care if we got trampled on in the meantime. Their job was to take care of the situation, and that's what they did.
And what makes the situation in LA even more curious, like I mentioned before, is you don't have any of the leadership telling people to go home or calm down. Karen Bass is saying, we're not going to stand for this.
And
so.
where do the LAPD and the feds
Right.
cross over, and who's protecting who and all that weird stuff?
A lot of people in the middle,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Well, thank everybody for joining us on this chat. All right, you're watching Fox 10 Talks.
Our first afternoon edition, Saturday afternoon.
Weekend edition.
Weekend.
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
First weekend edition. 7 days a week now. I'm Brian Webb, Trenton Hooker, Ashlie Rodriguez, Robbie Baker on deck. First, though, we want to talk about probably one of the biggest stories of the week, the most powerful man in the world versus the richest man in the world.
Yeah, what was going through your head?
The big breakup.
When the girls are fighting. What was going through your head? Because my friend actually let me know about it, and she goes, Musk is just going full Kanye on Twitter right now. And obviously he owns X, so he can't even kick himself off, right? He could just keep going and going.
And it's not like, everybody saw this coming, right?
I don't think anybody did. You see one of those tweets right there, accusations about the Epstein files.
Which we all kind of knew.
Yeah, well, there are pictures of them together, videos of them together. So, I mean,
but it was a shocker that he said that.
Same day, kind of like we were talking about before, you had the Trump administration appointed FBI director Kash Patel in an interview, live during the interview, being brought up on the Joe Rogan show about, what about the Epstein files? That's what Elon's talking about. He said, I'm not even going to touch that. I'm not even weighing in on that.
Literally your job.
Right.
Literally
just
your job.
talking about, they where the investigation was on that. I thought it was really
well,
interesting.
I was mentioning Pam Bondi said they had 10,000 hours of video from that island, and then Kash Patel's like, I don't have any video, and something's not adding up. I mean, MAGA was really excited about those files, and the fact that it's just he didn't kill himself, nothing to see here, folks, and then Elon tweets that, but it started with I got you elected. And the ingratitude, ingratitude that you're giving me for this horrible, disastrous bill that's going to add to the deficit. It's like, what happened? What went wrong?
Right.
And then Trump came back and said he was wearing thin. So it's almost like, did Trump admit that he fired him, kicked him out of the White House, and Elon's sour about it? It's drama.
Well, and I was watching it that night just escalate by the tweet and the Truth Social post. Where we were talking about the ramifications for SpaceX with possibly canceling their federal contracts, and then for Elon Musk to hit back that the Dragon rocket with the Falcon 9, that they were going to decommission part of that, escalating that overnight. I know that he has walked that back since, as has the Trump administration, saying, well, hold off. We're not saying that we're going to cancel all of our SpaceX contracts yet.
But I thought I read that Trump said he has no interest in restoring relationship with Musk at this time. I think he said that today, and then
he's too busy.
He's too busy with his thing, and but yeah, that's quite the showdown. Richest versus most powerful, and you don't want to use my rockets anymore. Good luck with your space race and all that you want to do there.
But raise your hand if you didn't see this coming.
No, I know. I mean,
I don't think anyone did.
Especially like in the beginning where, he's in the Oval Office. It was kind of a weird look for a president to give that much power away.
And let's face it, two of the biggest egos on planet Earth in the same room. I mean, that's destined for trouble.
I just didn't think it would happen this quickly and this publicly. Pretty shocking.
And over the big beautiful bill, kind of when it started.
That's the important part.
He didn't want us spending that much money, because that's a whole nother rabbit hole like that we could go down. I mean, about spending and adding to the debt and the bond markets, and it gets just all crazy.
It gets very messy.
Speaking of rabbit holes, I mean, he's doing press conferences with a black eye. Trump said that he offered him some makeup. He didn't want to take it.
Trump has makeup just on the ready?
He has makeup on the ready. And then it's like, are you on ketamine? Like, are you on drugs in the White House? This is not what people elected Donald Trump and the Trump administration to do.
You literally can't not make this stuff up. You wouldn't believe it if someone told you, and it's really happening.
Richest guy in the Oval Office on ketamine with a team of people who can just fire people from the National Park Service. I mean, I think possibly the White House staff looked at this and said, this is going off the rails. We need to pull him back. And he got upset.
19-year-olds with X-rated names going around firing people. And I think they have access to our Social Security information. If
the
I'm
Supreme
not
Court ruled yes, that was legal.
I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah.
What's the legal argument there?
So now the conversation is Elon so upset that he's going to now bankroll the Democrats against Trump. He's already tweeted that Trump should be impeached, and then he deleted the tweet. So this is just getting ugly, and it's unfortunate.
And we did run a story last night that behind the scenes, Trump people are scrambling to make things good again. But we'll see how that
Well,
goes.
yeah,
Well, the White
Elon's
House
powerful.
definitely is never going to be the same. I think we can certainly
safe to
set that
say.
precedent.
All right, good stuff. Is it time to bring in Robbie Baker?
Yeah, let's bring in Robbie.
Robbie Baker. Is Ashlie out?
Hey guys,
Peace out, Ashley.
No.
She's
nice
got
to
more
be
important
here.
things to do.
I'll see you
We're gonna
tomorrow,
scoot
same
over.
time.
Later. Thanks for stopping by. We did get a show off her. She has Fox 10 socks. I missed out on
Ooh.
that.
Where do you get those?
I know, that's what
She
I
went
said.
to sweepstakes or something?
Yeah, no, I guess she said she went to a dinner for a Christmas dinner.
Ah.
We weren't invited.
We weren't invited.
That was
Mm.
it. Yeah. yeah.
Robbie Baker.
I'll never know the
man.
joy of Fox 10 socks.
We love having Robbie Baker on. I was going to ask you about the settlement with this. First, it was NIL money,
Mhm.
and now I guess they reached a deal where colleges can directly pay. Is that better or worse for the athletes?
You talk about rabbit holes. There are so many nuances to this. It was a court case, and I believe it was California is where a federal judge decided yesterday. The House settlement is what probably people will better know this by. It's basically establishing revenue sharing in college sports now. So there's a million kind of tentacles to this. The basic kind of version is that as of starting in July 1st of this year, schools at the Division I level can opt in to revenue sharing up to $20.5 million with their student athletes. Which schools are going to opt into it, where that money comes from, how they're going to divide it. Are schools going to say we're going to give almost all of that to football? Are they going to divide it evenly? That's stuff that a lot of schools are figuring out.
Does the guy who sits the bench get the same as the starting quarterback?
Exactly.
I don't
So
know.
there are a lot of things that schools, I think, schools knew this was going to happen. This is not like a blindside. This court case has been going for a while. Schools now have to figure out the reality of how you figure out how to make it work. There are some schools, like I was reading a story on The Athletic this afternoon, that I guess Tennessee is raising some ticket prices and concessions, and then they're adding a fee to certain tickets called a talent fee now, and that's how they're planning to revenue or get some more money to make up the gap for this revenue sharing. Truthfully, what this really means is that, in my opinion, is there is already a gap, right, between the SEC and the Big Ten, and then you got the ACC and the Big 12, and then kind of everybody else. The SEC, the ACC, those Power Four conferences, they're not going to have a ton of trouble coming up with this $20.5 million to revenue share because they get the most money in TV money revenue every year.
Yeah.
Your Sunbelt schools, your GCUs of the world, stuff like that. That's where it's going to be harder for them to continue to stay competitive, because they're not going to have – they can do it. They can opt into the revenue sharing, but are they going to be able to have that money on hand like in Alabama or a Tennessee or an Ohio State?
Okay, so that money is not coming from on high, raining down onto all colleges. They have to somehow produce that revenue on their own?
Yeah, like I said, there's so many intricacies to this. My understanding from what I have read is that it is revenue sharing the revenue that is already being generated within these schools, because people
For
know
NIL.
this is
Yeah.
NIL is a different.
Separate.
This is different.
That's separate.
So there are now new rules that are going into place as part of this with regards to NIL. It's still there. There will be new rules. There is going to be an accounting firm kind of overseeing some of this NIL stuff now. The landscape of college sports, the amateurism model that we all knew was kind of a sham anyways, does not exist anymore. This is professional sports with direct pay. And then you got other court cases out there right now, because with schools being able to directly pay their athletes and their players, are they employees of the university?
Right.
Do they qualify for medical benefits because they're getting paid by the university? University employees in states qualify for state pensions. Like, there is you know what I mean? Like, this is, you talk about rabbit holes.
And the back pay. I saw the back pay.
$2.8 billion?
$2.8 billion for athletes starting in 2016, because athletes back in the day could not get NIL deals.
Right.
So the part of this settlement was that I think that money is coming from the NCAA, I think somehow, but $2.8 billion has been allocated to back pay athletes that were not able to capitalize on name,
Well-
image, and likeness because up until around 4 or 5 years ago, if you got a water bottle from somebody at a basketball game, you were out for the
Right.
season and the school was suspended. Like that's how quickly this stuff has changed.
And Trenton, I know similar deal here. What about me? I was Division II. I sat on the bench.
Hey, you're
Do-
getting on a
Do
settlement,
I
Brian.
get some money? There you go. I
Yes,
can see
yes.
my check coming in the mail.
I believe the
a buck-
statute of
a buck
limitations has
57.
left you
Oh, that
far
was the
behind.
last-
Yes.
That was back when the shorts were still way
Right,
up high.
right.
I think that style's coming back now.
Is
actually.
it?
I
Is
think
it?
it's everything
Yeah,
old is
hey.
new again. You know.
What's
Second chances.
What's
Yeah.
coming up on sports today? You know?
Well,
Anything
I'm
new?
actually since all this stuff happened kind of later last night and trying to figure out in the weeds of this, ASU kind of got out quickly last night, and Graham Rossini, the athletic director, tweeted some stuff out, and Kenny Dillingham about what a great time it is to be a Sun Devil and how all the exciting stuff they have going on. ASU seems to be in a good position to absorb and figure out the changing landscape as they have been with NIL and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to be basically a couple minutes after we get off here, running back to the sports office to do a Zoom interview with a gentleman named Chris Cartman. He's from a website called Sun Devil Source, dialed into all things ASU. He covers ASU like one of the best in the whole market. So I'm going to get some insight from him on how ASU's positioned in this new kind of marketplace and changing landscape and what it could mean for the Big 12 and stuff moving forward, and we'll have that stuff coming your way later tonight.
And on the point with ASU, am I mistaken that the lawsuit that we're talking about with the ruling yesterday, that it was originally an ASU swimmer who filed
his
this?
last name is House, so that's kind of where the
got it.
house settlement.
Yeah.
Because that again, I am no legal scholar, but there have been multiple kind of antitrust cases over time, my understanding, and they all kind of got combined, I think, into this house settlement that the
Didn't it all start
federal
with
judge in
Ed
California-
Bannon from UCLA with NIL?
That's how the NIL stuff
money.
came together. Yeah, I think that began because of the NCAA video game.
The video game.
Yeah,
He's like,
Ed
"That's
O'Bannon,
me."
he's like, hey, I'm playing as myself
am
in
I
the
not
video
getting
game. I don't get anything for this, and that's how that court case took a long time, and then now
And then-
NIL exists.
And we have 1 minute, but my mind's going to. So Alabama's going to be able to pay players way more than some small Rutgers.
Well,
Right.
that's the interesting thing is on its theory, it's a salary cap, $20.5 million revenue sharing across the board.
Okay.
But if you're Alabama, does 19 of that go to football and you give $1 million to basketball? You see what I'm saying?
volleyball,
Like,
swimming, get
as far as I
nothing.
know, there aren't guidelines necessarily that says you have to distribute it evenly or things like that. So your schools that are big football schools are probably going to funnel this a lot to football, and then you also still have NIL deals on top of that.
More things change, more they stay the same,
Exactly.
sounds like.
Thanks, Robbie,
Hey,
for coming
if you're
in.
good at sports, you make a lot of money.
It's true.
Good point.
It's a good time to get an agent, sounds like.
That's some of these kids in like high school are getting contacted now because you have to have somebody in place to help you get these deals and stuff. It's wild.
Unreal.
It's a crazy world.
Hmm.
Our first